Well, I'm so excited, Leslie, to welcome you to Breakfast with Boyden, and
You.
really excited to talk with you about Black History Month meets Women's Month and women's empowerment and everything in between. So, I would love to first, Leslie, start by giving us an introduction of who is Leslie Nicole Smith and a bit about your background.
Absolutely. So, first and foremost, Leslie Nicole Smith is a wife and mother. That's my first job. But outside of that, currently, I've been with you for 2 years, you and Wendy Wilsker. And it's just been an enjoyable ride. And before I tell you more about what I'm doing now, I'll start by telling you a little bit how I got here. So, upon graduation, I sold Yellow Pages advertising. OMG, that tells my age. And then from there, my husband and I, we moved to Chicago. I was an insurance agent. I had my own insurance agency while I was there. And then I paused to take care of my little one, my first little one. And then I went back into the workforce, went back to the insurance world. But then I transitioned over into education. So I was in high school administration for one of the largest charter high school networks in Chicago, which really reintroduced me to college life. So, in one of my roles, we would visit colleges and universities, and so from there, I got reintroduced to my alma mater, DePaul University. That's DePaul with a W. And so then I started serving on the board of directors. And then from there, they were like, Leslie, why don't you come work here? So I served as the executive director of alumni engagement for 4.5 years. And so that is what really um, gave me a breadth of knowledge about the advancement world. Hence my role here at Boyden, recruiting mostly advancement professionals in higher education as well as nonprofits. Recently, though, I just launched a new business, Leslie Nicole Speaks, where I'm a transformation strategist and women's empowerment coach. So I am really, really excited about that venture as well.
Excellent. And I'm sure, thinking about being an executive search consultant here
Mhm.
for the past 2 years with us at Boyden, and is amazing. And being an empowerment coach, I would imagine there's some crossover there, working with candidates, working with clients. I would love to hear how sometimes you're wearing these hats simultaneously.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that we do here at Boyden is empower and coach our candidates. And it's not only just coaching them about interview skills and resumes, et cetera, but it's more about coaching them about their worth. I do recall in one instance where we had a candidate who had mentioned a specific salary to me, and I was like, girl, absolutely not. You are worth so much more than that. So much more. The salary is more than that. And so she actually ended up being offered the position at the higher end of the range with a bonus. Totally changed the trajectory of her life. Was probably about 60% ish more than what she had mentioned. But based off of her experience and what she had to offer, what she was able to accomplish at her previous institution, she was worth so much more. And so I'm just very, very happy that she was able to change the trajectory of her life. Now, Leslie Nicole Speaks. I do the same thing. So I am really empowering women to just really step outside of the box and really dive into their calling. Because really, what happens is our worth, of course, is so much, but the value that we bring to the table is really based off of our experiences. But
Mhm.
also is based off of what I like to call our purpose. Things that we're really passionate about, things that we're really passionate about, that is honestly where the money is. That is where we thrive. And so I really thrive on seeing other people thrive. I love to see other people successful, whether that is professionally, whether that is physically, whether that is financially, emotionally, or spiritually. And so that is really how the two intersect. I've actually coached someone on my side of the business, and then I was like, you know what? Maybe you should be applying for this job. So it's been a great um, intersection of the two. It's really, really
That's great.
exciting. Yeah.
So I'm sure you've given, some thought to candidates that are applying for different positions.
Mhm.
Maybe they don't have every single box checked, but how would you respond to the phrase, "You deserve the seat, apply anyway"?
I would say you deserve the seat, apply anyway.
And how might you encourage someone that maybe doesn't check off 10 out of 10 boxes
Yeah,
or have
yeah.
all of the qualifications?
Yeah. I would say, you know what, in today's day and age, I feel like employers are a little more honest with what the requirements are. We're getting better about that just as, in companies and organizations. However, when I first started working, there were all these different requirements. Have to have a master's preferred. The executive director position I was able to serve in for 4.5 years, it said master's preferred. I do not have a master's degree. However, I have the experience. And
Mhm.
sometimes experience can honestly even supersede the degree, so to speak. Also, the various skills that you may obtain from working 3 to 5 years somewhere, or even 10 years, you may get in other avenues, whether it's your side hustle. There are so many women specifically who have side hustles these days. I'm one of them. I've had side hustles, honestly, probably for the majority of the 20 plus years that I've been working in corporate America or in the nonprofit industry. And then last but not least, there's been a statistic that kind of goes around that I've heard many a times. It's like women or men apply if they, meet 60 to 70% of the requirements. Women, usually it's about 90 to 100%. We feel
Mhm.
like we have to. Now, whether that's a myth or not, I've seen that it's a myth. I've also seen that it's real, so we won't go into that argument. But what I will say is that a lot of women are intimidated by what they see on paper. And
Mhm.
so you don't have to be intimidated. If you can do some or part of the job, if you know that you can learn part of the job and you can say, okay, my skills are transferable, whether it's switching industries, excuse me, or switching positions, you can do the job. We go to college and we go to school to learn how to learn, not to be experts. And so, therefore, once we tap into the role, then yes, this is a growth opportunity. Any position that you take, I don't care if you're going to work at a fast food restaurant, you still have to learn the different
Yep,
skills and talents that you need in order to flip the burgers or be a cashier. So, just
absolutely.
I would say you deserve the seat. Apply
Great
anyway.
advice. And speaking of advice, what advice might you give to a hiring manager of how to diversify the table and really broaden the audience, broaden the culture, broaden the experience that
Mhm.
somebody might be bringing to the table?
Do not always hire yourself. Don't always hire the same person with the same qualities or the same skills or the same talents. In thinking about diversification, let's just say it's a store and
Mhm.
they are trying to diversify or increase the number of consumers that come into their store or that buy from their online store. If we have the same person at the table that thinks the same way that we do, that looks the same way that we do, etc., we may not have the knowledge or the lived experience of those people or those consumers that we're trying to sell to or to
Mhm.
add into our pipeline of consumers. So therefore, it's extremely important to diversify the table for that reason. It really adds to your bottom line. And when I'm talking about consumer, I'm not talking about stores. I'm also talking about alumni. We deal a lot with higher education institutions. I was one of the only African American people or African American employees in my division. However, that brought a lot of African American Black women back to the university, men and women back to the university as a result of,
Definitely.
you know what, oh, she's here. Let me see what she has to say. And that really boils down to, it could boil down to age, it could boil down to lived experiences, it could boil down to, yes, race and ethnicity, and honestly, diversity of thought. It could boil down to demographics. Was somebody a first generation student versus, you know, a 5-year legacy coming from a 5-year legacy family? So it's extremely important to your bottom line.
Excellent. And what advice might you give to someone as they look for a new position? Thinking, kind of both of the hats that you wear as an executive search consultant and doing some empowerment. Someone starting a job search, what advice might you give?
You know, I like to say, you know, I used to do what I like to call discovery conversations first, because I was like, what is it that I really want to do? And so when you think about, okay, what are the things that I'm good at versus what are the things that I'm passionate about, and how can I bridge those two together? So just having those discovery conversations with people that I knew in my network, and then also getting out there and just talking to people, asking those people, can you know what? Can you
Mhm.
introduce me to so and so that does this already? And I do realize that not everyone has a vast network. So, guess what? There's this thing called LinkedIn that works extremely well as well. And that is how Wendy and I became connected. She reached out
Right?
to me on LinkedIn because of a post that I made about being burnt out at my previous position. And she was like, let's have a conversation. So, I would just say talking, doing your research, and then I also tell new graduates, you know, think about the culture in which you want to work, and we have to think about that as seasoned professionals as well, and then also thinking about the salary that you want to make. I think that's also very, very important. You know, being in nonprofit could be different being in corporate America. But it's about, you know, what is the difference that you want to make, whether it's in corporate America or nonprofit, and then what do you need to sustain your family?
Excellent. All great pieces of advice. Well,
Yes.
thank you so much, Leslie. It has been so wonderful to have you share some of your vast knowledge, and I love all of the things related to empowering folks as they look for a position. So, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me, Lisa.